Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I'm going live right now. We got an interesting topic, and I'm trying out a time for some people that say, "Hey, I missed your live stream. The time's not convenient for me." This is a channel with people that visit from different parts of the world. So it's a Sunday afternoon for me. I have the extra time, and let's get into it. How to overcome desperation. I talked about being desperate earlier this week in a live stream, and I thought it was a really good topic because a lot of times out of a breakup, how desperate are you? Cryptic, how you doing? I'm gonna talk for a bit here, and if you have some questions or comments, please put them in the comment section. And if you like this time frame, I'll make an effort more often to do it because right now a lot of the people are the same that are coming on the live streams, and I think it's due to other people's time zones. So, how to overcome Nike One? About to put you on a milk carton, bud. Good to hear from you, bud. So, how to overcome desperation, desperate times, desperate stories in my own life. So, I was going to make this a video, that wasn't a live stream, but I said, fuck it. Let's just make it a live stream. I'll talk for a bit and then I'll come back to your comments. And these are some stories from, like I said, these are stories from my own life. They might not be exactly breakup stories, but what I'm trying to convey to everyone out there is that when you're feeling desperate and you act out of desperation, it's probably not your best move to act on any high level of emotion. You have to take a step back and really think about, first of all, why am I feeling so desperate? Is this what I really want to do? And it's out of a breakup, desperation is not an attractive place to be. And a lot of people don't see it that way because they're acting straight out of emotion. They're acting, thanks, Nike One. They're acting, they want everyone to know how they feel, how they're hurt, and how they can help, and how they can do something immediately to get the pain to go away. So it's just like if you were in pain and the doctor says, "Hey, look, we need to operate on you. We need to do this. It's going to take 3 or 4 months," and you're like, "Screw it. I'm just gonna take the morphine and I'll take the easy way out." Right. So let me get into some of these stories. So I'll start off with one, right? This is my life. These are real stories. Not many of the events have been changed, based on a true story here. So long time ago, when I was about 16 or 17 years old, in between 16 and 17 years old, actually. Okay. So it's about 30 years ago. No, fuck that. 30 years ago. That's 21 years ago. Jeez, time flies. I was working at a drugstore, and when I like a big drugstore, and we developed 35 millimeter film. And I made pictures, basically. You bring in your film, I ran the machine, I did the pictures. And it was a pretty cool job, actually. And a lot of other people that worked there went to high school with me. A lot of other people were young. I mean, we got paid nothing. I think I got paid $6.50 or $7 an hour, which is unheard of now. But I thought I was a pretty cool dude. I had a lot of friends there. And one of the things, it used to have those old time clocks that used to stamp out, that you'd punch out, and they wanted you to actually clock out for a 10-minute break. I know it seems ridiculous, but they had you clock out for 10-minute breaks. You had 2 10s and I think a 30-minute lunch or an hour lunch. I'm not sure. Anyhow, I wouldn't always clock out for the 10-minute break, whatever, real rebel, right? So a girl that I had gone to high school with that I kind of had a crush on, and we used to talk on the phone and whatnot, had left the school, transferred to another school, and I hadn't seen her for a year, I don't know, 8 months. It had been a while, and she walked into the drugstore, and she was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh, what's up? How you been? Da da da." We're talking, and she was like, "What are you up to? Da da da." And she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go outside and get a juice or something like that." And so I said, "You know what? I can take a break. Let's go outside." And so we sat. I had a Bronco truck. I went outside and hung out in my car and just talked. Right? It was like in the afternoon. So my manager came outside, and my manager's like, "Hey, Mac, what are you doing? The pictures are lined up for 1 hour photo, this and that." And the manager, he was younger. when I say younger, he was like my age now, like 38, 39. I thought he was pretty cool. And he was kind of making a joke out of it. And he's like, you didn't clock out. You didn't tell anyone. And I'm in the car with the girl, and, you know, me being Joe cool at 17 years old, I'm like, yeah, okay, man. Yeah, I'll be back in a minute. And he kind of looked at me like, what? And I was like, I'll be back in a minute. Don't worry about it. So I proceeded, as I do with long conversations, to spend the next 30 minutes or 25 minutes talking to the girl. And I came in late. There's all these, you know, photos waiting for me to get processed. And the guy comes in, he's like, hey, Mac, come meet me upstairs in the office. And this, I don't know if you guys know, you know, working at a store, but this is when the second floor is where they overlook the department store or the drugstore or grocery store type thing. And so it's kind of like, you got to go upstairs. And he's like, sit down. And he's like, I'm sending you home. I'm writing you up and you need to talk to the store manager tomorrow. I was kind of like, what the hell? I was caught off guard. He's like, look, you just don't listen to me. You don't respect me. I'm not going to fire you, but you need to talk to the store manager. And I had enough and I'm sending you home. So I was like, fuck, I was shocked. I was surprised. Looking back, he had every right. I took a break. I didn't clock out. I didn't tell anyone. It created a backlog in the photos. But at the time, being a selfish 17-year-old teenager, I was like, what the hell's his problem? Why would he send me home? I come back in the next day, and the store manager, who honestly, for some reason, didn't really like me in some ways. I didn't work with him a lot. My sister had worked at the same store, and he really liked her. She was hardworking and followed all the rules, and maybe I wasn't the same at the time. Anyhow, he goes, hey, Mac, we're going to have a work relationship started right now, right here. And he goes, you can either resign or I will fire you. Totally caught off guard. He's like, look, you disrespected the manager. He's complained about you before. You've had a couple other incidents, and I don't want you to work here anymore. Totally caught off guard. And the other manager that wasn't in there from the day before that had directly told me, you're not going to get fired. I was like, okay, I guess I'll resign. And I thought it was like a really punk move by the other manager not to be in the room at the same time. And he kind of just like sheepishly was like, oh, hey, Max, see you later, had his head down. But bottom line is I got fired, right? So at the time in high school, they had something called work experience. And I don't know if everyone is aware of what work experience is, but I literally got credits because I had a job that was 25 hours or more. So I got to leave after lunch my senior year of high school because I had a job. But you had to show your paycheck stub, and you had to go to this work experience class once a month and talk about your job and whatnot. So me getting fired from this job immediately put me behind. Like this was actually units for high school for me. Work experience was. So my teacher's like, look, you got to get a new job, you know, immediately. So of course, being 17, a week goes by. You're like, yeah, I'll look. Yeah, I'll look. And I always had a job. So like before that job, I had a job, and it wasn't difficult to find a part-time job equal to that one. But I was, you know, 17 years old, taking it easy, kind of enjoying not having school work for a little bit. 2 weeks go by. And again, my fault. I wasn't looking for a place. My teacher goes, look, you're going to fail work experience. You're not going to be able to graduate high school. You need to get a job. Someone just called me from Harry's Hofbräu, and that's the name of it. Hofbräu is like a glorified cafeteria type place. And I talked about this in a prior live stream, but I didn't talk about how I ended up working there. So she's like, hey, look, you got to take this job or get one in its place. So I didn't have anything left. I was desperate because she's telling me basically you're gonna lose credits if you don't get a job this week. I didn't have anything else lined up. I could have said, all right, I'll interview for that one and I'll line up 3 or 4 interviews for other places that are more desirable, but I didn't. I was lazy about it, and I put myself in a desperate situation where I had to take this job. It was the worst job fulfillment wise I've ever had. Okay, it wasn't difficult, and they gave you like a really nice free dinner, but it was whiter wheat dinner roll when people pass by, whiter wheat dinner roll. And the manager's like, wow, you don't seem very happy working here. It's like, yeah, I'm asking 100 people a night, whiter wheat dinner roll, and do you want ice in your water? And it was standing. So I knew I wouldn't like the job. And then you came home and your clothes just reeked of like cafeteria style food. But my point is, I only lasted there 3 or 4 months because I knew it wasn't long term. And after school ended, I just got out of it immediately because I had to take the job out of desperation. Looking back, I was like, oh, I was blaming them firing me at the drugstore, but really they had a viable reason. I was upset I had to take that job, but looking back, I had 2 weeks in between that time. If I put my head down and put my applications out, I could have got another job. And I put myself in a desperate situation where I had to take a job I didn't want to take and I didn't like. And for 3 months, I'm going, whiter wheat dinner roll, whiter wheat dinner roll, whiter wheat dinner roll, whiter wheat dinner roll. And then I got a manager telling me, wow, you look really unhappy. Really? You're a genius, aren't you? So my point being on that story is a lot of times we're putting ourselves in situations where we're desperate, right? We're actually desperate. And then we're forced to take the first thing that's available, which is not something we really want. And when you're in a breakup and you're feeling desperate, you will immediately go, how can I get back together with my ex? Stop the bleeding, stop the worry, stop the loneliness, stop the what if, shoulda, coulda, woulda shit. And I'll do anything to get back with them. And if I do get back with them, I'll do anything to make them happy. And that is highly unattractive. And it puts you in a position where you're walking on eggshells and you're doing things you wouldn't normally do. And you're really not going to be happy in that relationship when you should be taking a step back and going, wait a minute, where's my power in this situation? What the fuck can I do to not put myself in a situation where I'm making a desperate decision? Dylan, welcome. Nike One's on, Cryptic's on. This is more or less, I'm going to be going over this topic, so I probably won't be getting to your comments for a little bit here, but go ahead and speak on it. If you have a desperate moment where you made a desperate decision, please chime in. Story number 2, getting cut from the high school basketball team. I was a freshman in high school. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I started on my basketball team in middle school, which isn't a huge, big deal, but our team was really good. And 8th grade, we played about 45 games of basketball. We were first place. We won some tournaments, and I was a starter. And I also played in a couple other leagues. So basketball was effectively my life. And it was something that I hung my hat on. It was something I identified with being good at. And I didn't really foresee myself not making the high school basketball team, even though I was a lot smaller and slower than some of the other people that were trying out. I was 13, and I hadn't matured yet. Anyhow, no excuses being made. I got cut. Okay. I was already in athletics. I was already told by the coach, you're pretty good in this. So it shocked me. I think it was first or second cuts. And I had been practicing with the team. I had a really good rapport with them. Had a lot of friends on the team, coming in as a freshman. So when I got cut, it was a shocker. It was my very first breakup situation in my life. And it was gut-wrenching. So I'm in this position. I get cut. I've been working my ass off in tryouts. And like I said, I started the year in what we call athletics. So I was already practicing with the team. So this was surprising to get cut. So I get cut. Bunch of guys that were like, damn, I can't believe you got cut. You got the best shot on the team or this, or, people are saying different things. It still hurts. It's still shocking. It's still ground zero. Right. So I'm like, damn, I don't want to leave, athletics. I still want to be a part of this team somehow. I'm desperate. I'm desperate to be a part of the team, to do something now. So what do? This is embarrassing. I go to the coach. I go, look, do you need a scorekeeper? It's embarrassing to even mention. I actually forgot I even did it. So I go from playing basketball 45 games a year before starting. I think our record was like 35-10, something like that. We were really good. And then I go to getting cut, to then going a step lower and going, I'll keep score. And I didn't know, let me add to this, folks. I didn't know that being a scorekeeper also involved me filling the water bottles. I didn't know this. So I didn't really think about, hey, I'm also going to have to fill the water bottles, which was this, for me at the time. And anyone that's had to do this looking back, again, having these kind of life experiences looking back, it doesn't define me. It only makes me stronger. It only makes me more compassionate to other individuals that have to fill water bottles or do things like this. But at the time, it was a desperate fucking move. And putting myself in that position actually hindered me trying out the next year, because had I taken that time where I was scorekeeping during the games, traveling with the team, and you still don't really, you really feel inferior when you're a scorekeeper going from someone that you thought would be on the team, even though everyone's like, yeah, I like hanging out with Mac or having him around. It still was like you're not on the team. So looking back, if I would have took a step back and went, look, I'm going to start practicing every day on my own, or I'm going to join this camp. I had thought about transferring schools. There was all other things. There was a lot of other options there that weren't quite as desperate as becoming the fucking scorekeeper. And then on top of that, getting, filling the water bottles. And this really affected my high school year, my first couple of years of high school. And it affected my confidence overall that year. It affected my grades. It really got a hold of me. And where I'm going with this, in that moment, I wasn't thinking, hey, I got cut from the team. What did I do wrong? What was I lacking? What excuses are I making? I went to the coach. He was kind of vague about it. And can I work on my game, come back, try out, and get my best foot forward? No, instead of that, I'm like, oh, let's stop the bleeding. Let's do something immediate. Oh, if I do scorekeeping, maybe that'll make sure that I'm a part of the team. I can still practice with them. And no, it was a desperate move. It didn't make me feel better at all. And I immediately regretted it. And that's why when you feel desperate, and you feel desperate in your breakup, if you have that feeling, you need to take a step back and not act out of desperation, because in majority of the time, you're going to do something that just makes you immediately feel better, or immediately makes you feel like, oh yeah, this will stop the bleeding. Oh yeah, this will stop me from feeling bad. But in reality, if you commit to something out of desperation, you're probably committing to something that your heart's not fully into. You're probably committing to something where in some ways you might be getting taken advantage of. In some ways, you're committing to something that you have no serious interest in, but you just are trying to fill a void. And correct me if I'm wrong, and put it in the comments if you guys watch this video later on. Have you done that before in your life? And I'm using the examples that aren't a breakup just to make it clear that desperate moments aren't just breakups, but breakups are when they get really desperate really quick. So I have a few more stories to add to this. Just going to chime in with the crew here. Anyone? We got 3 on deck because this is an odd time, like I said. So I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to carry this out. So I have another situation, another story to tell. I was in the middle of no contact with an ex, and at the time, I've said this before, I never knew what the no contact rule was, or YouTube wasn't quite as prevalent with the information 10 years ago, or whatever it was, 11 years ago. I had a relative that had told me, like, just go in and, like, do not contact them. So I was in that. I was hurting. I don't want to admit that I was desperate, but I was hopeful, wishful, and I was hurting. Like, I knew the breakup happened. I knew I wasn't getting back with it. And through an email, not even a text, not even a phone call, an email, which was weak, I was like, hey, can we get some coffee? And this is after like 3 weeks of no contact. And all day I'm checking my email, hoping and wishing, acting desperate, being needy in my head. In reality, if we would have got that coffee, it would have been extremely awkward. I would have been extremely uncomfortable. I wasn't ready to talk. And I didn't really have my gusto. I didn't have my center. And so it wouldn't have went well anyways, looking back. But it was just a desperate act because someone got in my ear that was a colleague that was like, look, Mac, just ask her out. Don't let things go. And so I did it. I finally got a response that said, I'm so happy now without you. I think it would be extremely awkward for us to meet up. It was a dagger. It was a gut shot. It hurt. It was clarity moving forward. So it wasn't all bad. But again, me asking for that coffee through an email was a desperate move. Looking back, the move to make was to stay in no contact, work on myself, and be extremely aware of why I felt needy and desperate. And that took 2 or 3 months later. And I think if someone comes across this channel or comes across some other channels, there's a lot of stuff out there to help them with that. But again, it was out of desperate and a needy state, and it didn't work out for me. So how do we counter this problem? The Three people that are on deck if they'd like to comment. Cryptic, Nike One, Dylan. How do we counter this problem? I have some ideas. How do we counter the problem of being in desperation, making desperate moves, and putting ourselves in a bad situation to have to commit to something we really don't want to do when we're really just lonely, or we really just have a void, or we really just want to stop the bleeding, as I say? And put it in the comments below if you watch this video later on. How do we combat this? How do we overcome being in a desperate situation? What are the answers? To me, first, you need to identify, wow, I'm in a really weak position right now. I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling needy. Be honest with yourself. You don't need to go to someone to say that, but if you want to unpack it with someone, be aware, but then be aware, where's my power? Secondly, go, if I act right now, if I go, for example, when I got cut from the basketball team and I'm willing to go be the scorekeeper, which I really wasn't excited about doing, really ask yourself before you make that move, go, why am I being the scorekeeper? Is this out of fear? Is this out of desperation? Is this something I really actually would be proud of doing? Is this something I really want to do? And if I would have asked myself at the time, I would have said, hell no. Why am I doing it then? Because somehow, some way, I think it's going to help me make the team. Is that even a good way to look at this problem? I mean, at the time, at 17 years old, with my life experience, I was just acting on emotion. I was acting on free will, and I was acting on fear, pure fear. And if you're coming from a place of fear and desperation, take 2 steps back. Really think about it. Maybe isolate for a little while. Go to a coffee shop. Go for a walk. Listen to some music and really get in touch with the situation. And be okay with being uncomfortable or not okay with things in the beginning, because you're going to have to sort this out and get a game plan moving forward. Okay? And a lot of times these desperate moves, someone will offer you something out of pity, right? So, my teacher during that time for work experience, she goes, look, I got this job available at this Hofbräu. You're going to have to take something. So she's throwing me a bone. She doesn't really care if I like the job or not. And she's got some pity. She goes, look, you got to take this job. I knew I would not like the job, right? I took it anyways because I was desperate, because I put myself in that position. And now I know if I feel desperate in the future, I'm sure there's going to be times in my life that I'm going to have moments of desperation and feeling lost and fearful. But what I do know is in those moments, I'm going to take a few steps back and I'm going to go, wait a minute, let me ask myself some really good questions. Let me get in touch with why I'm feeling this way. And the first answer, the quick answer that takes the pain away, let me dissect that. Let me unpack it. And then let me go, what would be the most fulfilling thing I could do in this situation? Good fucking question. What would be the thing where I would lead with the best intentions to be at my best, to get the best result? So let's rewind to these stories, right? Getting cut from the basketball team. I'm at ground zero. I'm feeling like shit. I'm embarrassed. I'm shameful in some ways that I got cut, right? And I was shocked. Had I took a step back, okay, being the scorekeeper, that's an option. Do you really want to do that? No. It's more shame. And it's taking time away from me actually practicing and getting better. What's my best route to making the team next year? Well, improve my left hand, be a better finisher at the rim, get in better shape, because that was a major issue. Is I wasn't big or anything like that, but I was out of shape on my liners and running around. That was a big issue. Getting stronger, because in high school people were stronger than they were in middle school. And so I could have made a list of these things and I could have went to work on them, and I had a full year to do it. And I was, at the time I was 13 years old. I got all the energy in the world. I didn't have any real bad habits. And so that would have been the answer with the best intentions, but it wouldn't have been easy. It would have took time. I wouldn't have been able to redeem myself for a full year, and I had to dedicate myself to the weaknesses I had in basketball. Right. So that would have been the right move to make. Hindsight 2020. Looking back when I got fired from that job, immediately after getting fired, I should have addressed the fact I need to get a new job, because otherwise this doesn't just affect my pocket. This affects actually me graduating from high school, because I have 2 units or 2 classes of credits that I get for working. And I better get out there looking. And you know what? With my experience and where I'm at, I could probably get a better job than what I had before, because I'm pretty good with people. I have some experience with pictures and whatnot. And I was able to resign so it doesn't look bad on my resume. Right. So I had that opportunity to start looking around and take control of my own destiny, but I didn't do it. Right. The other one, asking the ex for coffee through an email 3 weeks after no contact. This was desperate. And at the time, I felt nervous sending the email. So at the time, if I had to do that over again, I'd say, wait a minute. I feel really uncomfortable sending this email. Is this what I really want to do? Do I really believe she's going to get coffee with me? And if she does, do I have the strength, power, and neutral expectations to go in this with a cool head? Or am I going to be sitting there with my leg wagging, wondering like, hey, like, can we get back together? Like, I knew deep down in my core, I wasn't myself. I had never felt this way before, where I had this like air pocket in my heart. So if I would have done it over again, then I would have said, wait, this isn't the time to reach out for a coffee, because I have way too many expectations involved in this. All right, so there's a few comments on deck right now after 26 minutes of talking. I feel bad for younger Mac. Well, that's me being vulnerable, I guess, right? Don't feel bad for me. I had a pretty good teen life. Compared to some of these stories that come out with kids now, and bullying and all this other stuff, I'm just saying, I think we all have some stories in our past where we felt desperate, needy, or weak. And so when I go back to my subconscious, I'm like, oh, that was a real big one, right? It's not that I'm, sitting here trying to get pity. I'm trying to relate something different to your breakup situation, where this is part of fucking life, right? And I can look back and go, yeah, I should have done this, I should have done that. But really, real talk, I didn't know. I didn't have the toolkit at the time. You know what I'm saying, Jessica. And me coming at this time is, you're one of the people that doesn't usually, because of the time zone, get to be on these live streams. So I was thinking of you and a couple other people in Europe. So I'm glad you came on, Jessica. Welcome. Tommy, good to have you. Scott Fitzgerald, good to have you. Dylan, the Taz Devil, good to have you. Nike One, haven't seen you for a while. And Cryptic, if you're still on. So anyhow, these stories that I'm sharing obviously don't make me out to be some fucking hero. And this is what we have now, right? We have these narratives where all these people that are getting interviewed, and I watch them. I watch the interviews. Are these people that are like, oh, I made $200 million, so I'm successful and I'm great. All right, like these huge accomplishments or achievements. And it's like, wait a minute, have you ever had any desperate moments, or have you ever had something you had to overcome? And when I share this, some people are going to go like, fuck, dude, like getting cut from the freshman basketball team, are you still carrying that? No, I'm not. But at the time, that was fucking ground zero breakup type shit, dude. And then you got to go tell everyone that that you have that identity, that you play ball. And like people are like, oh, how's basketball going? Oh, I got cut. Oh, yeah. And oh, yeah. What are you doing now? Oh, I'm scorekeeping. Oh. And I can laugh about it now. And I never went and tried out again, because I think of that. I think that pushed me back, because of the acting out of desperation. The scorekeeping did not help. Years later, I continued to play ball. I played in a rec league at the YMCA 5 or 6 years later out of college. And I played for like 3 or 4 years. And people were like, damn, they were like, did you play in high school or nothing? And I always have to be like, nah, I got cut freshman year. Really? You didn't play? You seem like you played. I was like, I played a lot before then. But I kind of was able to, by playing just in that rec league for 2 or 3 years and getting recognized as someone that could play. I'm not saying I was the best player in the league, but I could play. I can contribute. I was good. it validated some things to me later on that I was like, yeah, actually, I could have made that team, and there's some different things there. And looking back, that's a time where I'm like, dude, do not make decisions or make choices when you're feeling really, really desperate, right? Because you're going to do things out of desperation just to make it go away. And isn't it true? It's like, what's the most desperate level a human being can be at, right? Is probably being in the Mojave Desert in 120-degree heat, looking for water, right? And then you get that water. If you do get that water, and what do? You down it, you choke it fucking down. Um, and sometimes if you eat when you're starved, you throw it up because your body's not ready to receive it because you're in a desperate state, right? You're so goddamn desperate that your body can't even process it quick enough, right? And so being in those modes when being like extreme thirst, extreme starvation, extreme fatigue, right? When you don't have enough sleep. It's almost when you have extreme fatigue and you need to sleep, you sometimes can't go to sleep right away. And so you want to create situations when you're desperate that you're rethinking where you're at and what you're going to do next and take a couple steps back. And don't go looking for pity. Okay. I get this a lot in breakup coaching, and I'm compassionate. I'm there for you, and I've been there before. And this is my role. That's right. It's like on the one hand, it's sometimes to be compassionate. On the other hand, sometimes to be tough love. On the other hand, to be fucking honest with you, right? But most people in the world that don't, sit in my chair or come from where I'm coming from, they don't really give a fuck. So when you go to them and you're like, oh my God, I broke up and this and that and this and that, and they have their own problems in their life, they got a job they hate, they got, bills to pay, or they had a bad breakup 2 years ago, they're still not over it. They don't want to hear it. They're going to project bad things into your situation, and then they're going to create more desperation for yourself. They're going to make you feel that way. Make sure you're going to people when you have these problems, when you're feeling desperate, people that you trust, people that you admire, people that you find noble, and talk to them about your problems. Talk to them about where you should go next. Damn, Rob, this is incredible that you could be on deck. It's got to be pretty late over there, or damn early. You really have to think when you're in those desperate modes to go to people that you admire from their own body of work. Don't just be going out asking every Tom, Dick, and Harry, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think about this? Because you're going to get conflicting information. You're going to get people that when you're pitiful and you're victim like, there's two things they'll do with you. They'll use you. They'll find a way that they can take advantage of your vulnerability, or behind your back, they'll be telling their friends, wow, this person's fucking devastated. I can't believe how pitiful they're acting, how pathetic they are. Or they'll give you bad information. Go to someone like myself that's a breakup coach. Go to someone that's a therapist. Go to someone who's certified, or go to someone that's a family or friend member that you look at and you're like, wow, they got a really good life. They have a really good way. They have a lot of values. Because a lot of times your friends and family, you didn't choose them. What do I mean by that? What do I mean you didn't choose your friends and family? You usually, especially early on in life, it's proximity. So your family, you're born with them. Okay. So this is hence unconditional love. You can't really change that. You can do the best you can. You're there for them. The good news is about 18, 20, 21 years old, when you're able to work, when you're able to get your own place, you can make a choice. If you have a really toxic family life and you've taken in enough input that you realize it's bad, you can move out. I've done that before. Like, you can move out, you can move away from bad friends. You have a choice once you get older. When you're in the house, you got to deal with it, right? Like, you're 8, 9 years old, your parents aren't getting along, shit's going down, there's some things going on. You can't just walk away. You can't just run away. When you get older, you do have a choice, right? Now, when you work somewhere, when you go to school somewhere, you generally, that's where you make your friends. It's just proximity, right? It's just proximity. Okay. So these people, you don't realize it. You're just taking opportunistic friends that have an influence on your life, and you're not really looking at their values and their body of work, right? Myself included, because I've just recently come to this conclusion in my own life. And I'm so much more aware because of doing breakup coaching and talking to so many individuals all around, and meeting so many good people, right? That impress me. And then thinking about some of the friends that I've become entangled with over the last few years. Not a lot, not all. That looking back, like, wow, dude, that friend, they didn't necessarily do me wrong, but they didn't add to any growth in my life or hold the same set of values as I do, or, you know, be someone that I thought, wow, this is a really good friend. I have a few like, but some of them create drama. Some of them get you involved in their lives, and it's endless and it's exhausting. And like I said, the same thing happens in a relationship when you break up. You broke up for a reason. You broke up because something was wrong. And when you take a step back and really assess things and really look at it and really unpack it, and it could take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, it could take 6 weeks, because your mind in the beginning just wants to replace that feeling. That could be a rebound or getting back together. It goes into desperation mode, and you need to fight off the desperation mode and get into a place where you're like, what are my other options here? Can I talk to someone about this? Can I write this out in my journal? Can I do some exercise? You got to overcome that, because acting out of desperation is not the place to be. Okay? That's not the place to be. So, yeah, I know, Jessica. I'm glad you can contribute. I'm sure you're at work, so I think you're the most active coaches on YouTube. I don't know how to judge that, but I enjoy doing the live streams. I'm going to double down on them because not a lot of other people are doing them. Sometimes we get off topic, but I don't give a fuck because I like talking. And we can't just talk about breakups all the time. Oh, okay, that's right. Sweet. 5 a.m. Jesus. Just got back to my place from an after hours party. Good for you, Rob. Rob's a little stallion out there on the single life. Well, you're kicking ass and taking names, my friend. Jesus, you're at 5 a.m. Wow. After hours can be crazy. Yeah, it's going till maybe 6:30 or so. I have a date night, Jessica. All right. Good for you. Well, it's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. You're excited? This is someone new. Do you want to share, or do you want to keep the mystery alive in the live stream? Scotty Fitzgerald, you got any comments if you're still on deck? Anyone have any questions? Because I went pretty long with what I was talking about today with the topic, but I think this is a good way to do it. Instead of making videos without the live stream, make topic videos with the live stream and then talk afterwards. Someone new, first date, I'll let you know how it goes. Well, have fun and be safe. All right. This is good. 5 a.m. party. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Where are you going to be? That's an old song. Does anyone else have some desperate old school stories that they want to share or touch on? It's not really comfortable putting yourself in those, back in those days, positions where you were desperate, right? I remember playing basketball in grade 7 when I did some sporting activity and we were the champions. Well, good for you, Dylan. I think what my point is with the basketball thing is I was absolutely devastated. I was desperate. I was upset, and it had nothing to do with the breakup. And it was a loss. And I've had that in a breakup before, and it just can make you do some really stupid things. It can make you act, and then later on, you're like, why did I do that? Why did I act that way? Well, you're desperate. You were trying to fill a void. It's like you're walking around with a bucket that has holes in it, trying to fill it with water. And even if when you're in a desperate state, usually even if you fill your bucket, the holes are still going to have the water fall out the bottom because you haven't really addressed why you're desperate, why you're feeling that way. Because desperation is a strong feeling. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. It's something that's built up, right? Cryptic's on. Nike one was off for a brief one. He's been working his ass off. Just had my little bro break up with his first love, man. He's going through it now. I've been trying to give him some knowledge, spreading some of yours to him. Outstanding, Nike one. First love's difficult. I think that first love might be the most difficult because people think like, oh, this is, the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with, this and that. But one thing that I have noticed and I have told people is that in the 21st century, is it really realistic or high probability that you're going to stay with your first love? Because there's just too much shit out there. There's too much content. There's too much information that constantly tells us what? Upgrade. Get more, do more, be better, get more money, get more, upgrade. iPhone 1, iPhone 2, fuck, let's go with the iPhone 10. What's the difference between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 9? Oh, I don't know, a better picture, a little bit faster speed, better get the iPhone 10, right? Look back at grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa had the same TV, the same rug, the same car for 25 years, and they were first loves. See how that works? How you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think currently people in their early 20s are going, is this the only person I'll ever be with? And one person starts thinking that and it starts getting some emotion. They get a friend that's single. They go out a few nights. Someone gets their number. And they go, wow, I really want to see what this is like. I really want to see what it's like to have fun. Look at the movies out there of people having such a great time in their 20s and in mid-20s and reinventing themselves. I mean, every time you see a movie where people are drinking, you never see them getting hungover or sick. You never get that. You never see them, someone just having a drink and they're acting regular. Not everyone's like that when they're drunk. And so I think people in early relationships right now just assume like if I break up, I'll just be able to tic-tac-toe and get some really great life experiences. And the reality is they have to see. They have to see what happens. They have to touch the stove to see if it burns them. About 12 years ago, I found out my ex was cheating. I grabbed a t-shirt I had just bought him and cut it to shreds. Well, I guess that is your power. I actually had a friend, Nike One, if you're still on. He had some Jordans, some retro Jordans, the one with the Jordan on the tongue. Actually, one of my favorite pairs. And I'm like, what happened to those Jordans you had? And he's like, oh, I went to Vegas with a group of our friends. And he's like, my girl was so pissed. She cut up all my clothes and she cut up all my Jordans with scissors and sent him the pictures. I was like, wow. He didn't get caught cheating. He didn't get caught doing anything. Just the fact that he went to Vegas. Whoa. She cut up he had jerseys and different things. He freaked out and called the police because he thought I was going to kill him with the scissors that night. Well, scissors can be dangerous for a man. Jesus. Wow. And you're laughing about it now? I grabbed a t-shirt and I just bought them and cut it up. It's funny how when you're younger like that, the things that you do when you get so upset. I've never had a short fuse. It takes a lot for me to get really upset. So, I mean, I have energy. I'll raise my voice and stuff, but to do something frantic like that. I think it's hilarious. I don't regret it for shit. Well, good for you. You would regret the fact if you actually used the scissors in a malicious way. I mean, to cut up a shirt and you bought it, so you felt validated. I would have paid to look at his face. I mean, looking back, I probably would just be like, what do you do? I remember actually, this is funny. David Hasselhoff shirt. I know David Hasselhoff's big in Germany, right? I had German friends that they were like, oh, he's huge in Germany. I had a roommate that was actually Swiss when I first came over here to teach. Really good guy. And he loved David Hasselhoff too. I was like, where did you learn about David Hasselhoff? That's funny. Knight Rider, Kit. Remember the car? But I remember I had a girlfriend that I lived with and we just started living together. And I'm not sure at the time if we were completely official yet. So she hadn't started living with me yet, but she was spending a lot of time at the house. And she had a VCR. This is how long ago this is, right? Who the fuck has a VCR? Those are in museums now. She had a VCR that she had brought over that we could use to watch movies. So looking back, I don't know, this is like 15 years ago, I guess. And we were fighting, right? And I think I left a receipt. I left a receipt on the counter. And I had gone out to dinner with a girl that was a friend of mine that I used to work with. I think the girl did like me. I know the girl did like me, but it was a platonic out to dinner, catch up. I hadn't seen her for years. But I didn't tell the girl I was with or dating. I wasn't official with her yet. I didn't tell her because I knew she'd be upset. So I just kept that to myself at the time. And again, I didn't do anything. I didn't hook up with the girl. So nothing was wrong there in that light. So she saw the receipt, asked me about it, and then I told the truth. I was like, yeah, I went out with so-and-so, da. She's like, oh my God, starts crying, getting upset, rips the VCR out of the wall and starts walking down the hall with it. I'm like, what are you doing? I remember I started laughing. I'm like, you're going to take the VCR? It's my VCR. I'm taking it home. I was like, okay, you could take the VCR home. That's okay. But let's just talk about this really quick. I was like, I explained, I went out to eat, and then I explained, look, if you're going to get really upset and you want to leave, you want to take the VCR, that's fine. But just to let you know, nothing did happen. I did go out with her. I didn't tell you because I didn't think I needed to, but I also was averting the fact that you maybe couldn't handle it, which you're proving now. We ended up making up and it was okay. And I didn't go into like, oh, I'm so sorry, because I didn't do anything fucking wrong, really. Maybe looking back, I could have just told her up front I was going out with this girl to have a bite, but it was funny. I'm taking my VCR. I was like, go ahead. Oh, man. The things we did. There was a desperate moment for her, I guess, right? Oh, yeah. After we broke up with that cheating ex, I bought it a Nintendo DS with his money. No regrets. Good for you. That's funny. All right, folks. Any closing questions? I was just going to do a quick hour here. It's good to have you on. It's good that Jessica got to chime in. I haven't heard from you for a while. I'm happy for you with the new date. I'm gonna go do a yoga session. It's raining out today. Gentle flow. Any closing questions? I don't think so today. I did a lot of narration in this one, huh? Good to see you too. Good to see you too, Nike. Cryptic. We have one other one. Tommy. I just sent you an email actually earlier today. You're in the right place, bro. Scotty Fitzgerald. Love the name. It reminds me of The Great Gatsby. Isn't The Great Gatsby written by J.P. Fitzgerald? Yeah. I'm losing my train of thought here. Dylan, Tazzy. It's curtains.